Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. A lot of money flowed out of Binance yesterday after the news broke that CZ, the founder and CEO of Binance, was pleading guilty to charges including money laundering. And Binance ultimately agreeing to pay a fine of $4.3 billion. That obviously shook the market. Undoubtedly, pretty much all of you have heard of that news by now. But it did result on a little touch of a bank run, a little touch of it. $1 billion in net outflows. And since then, a fair bit has flown back in, which is good, but this speaks to the degree of which customers not exactly confident in Binance after this unfolded. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because if it were the case that there is something seriously wrong with the long-term viability of Binance, this is something that could cause a dramatic impact in crypto prices, broadly speaking, including XRP. And this has been broadly discussed, especially on social media. I've seen all sorts of perspectives on this. I want to share with you mine because there's a lot of moving parts to this. And look, I'll just say this. I'm not saying Binance is insolvent because I don't see proof of that. But if that's the case, there will be a major capitulation event like was seen with the collapse of FTX. And on top of that, by the way, Binance's admission that many of their transactions were not lawful, that will stop. Meaning Binance will experience a reduction in business profitability because they're not going to be engaging in certain transactions anymore. We just don't know how extensive that will be in terms of the impact on their business. But it's not going to be nothing, though. It's going to be something. We just don't know because it's not publicly available information. I don't know if behind the scenes people at Binance are scrambling but trying to show a pretty cool face looking forward here. But there are a lot of people freaking out about this. So I'm going to share with you my take on this as well as some things to consider. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And by the way, just as a friendly reminder, not sure if y'all forgot about this one because it's been almost a year at this point, but we had a little bit of a bank run on Binance in December of last year. And that one actually was quite a bit more substantial. We had outflows on Binance middle of December last year of about $8.7 billion. Now, once you factor in the inflows, the net 7-day difference was a negative $3.6 billion. So that was quite the stress test. And if they were in an FTX type of situation, which is ultimately what prompted this to happen this past December, well, the things just would have kept on tanking to the downside. But no matter how many people pulled out money, and it wasn't everybody, but no matter how many people pulled out up to that point, not a problem because the money was actually there, right? Now, if it hadn't been there, let's see, this is the thing. I understand why people have been talking about this and voicing concern here. I don't know for sure because there's not sufficient transparency. And in fact, here, let me share with you some of the specifics, and then I want to share with you some additional thoughts on this. But here's the headline from CoinDesk. Binance processes nearly $1 billion in net outflows as CZ resigns. Crypto exchange Binance saw over $950 million in net outflows over the past 24 hours as it was hit with criminal charges in the United States, and founder CZ agreed to step down as chief executive officer as part of a record settlement. There are constant hourly net outflows of Bitcoin and stablecoins after the CZ's resignation announcement. Hok Chan Chung, I'm sure I butchered the name, head of marketing at CryptoQuant, told CoinDesk. And then he was quoted as saying also, however, compared to the total reserves of Binance, the current volume is not yet significant at all. Binance is set to continue operating as usual and make a complete exit from the U.S. market. The withdrawals are fairly above average, but not usually large on a weekly basis. An analysis of net hourly flows from the on-chain data tool CryptoQuant shows. And so all this to point out, although $1 billion in outflows in a short period of time, that's not nothing. That's obviously a vote of no confidence from those individuals. I mean, you could say that's, frankly, like that's still a bank run. I mean, there's no hard and fast rules in terms of what constitutes a bank run. It's just this concept of a lot of people pulling the money out of the bank, and it applies to crypto exchanges too, of course. It's the same concept. There's a lack of confidence, so funds flow out. Now, understand that not all bank runs are going to be as intense as others. Sometimes it's, well, in this case, I don't know what the percentage is in terms of users that pulled money out, but enough for it to be $1 billion. Last year, though, at the end of the year, it was over $8 billion that was flowing out. And so there's not set parameters on what concept. It's just more of the concept. I mean, it's still a bank run here. And also, just because there's a bank run on an entity like an exchange here, that doesn't mean that it puts the entity out of business. Because if the funds are there, you can have a bank run all you want. And if there's solvency and the funds are there, then it's not a problem. It's just people flipping out because they don't know for sure. They're concerned, what if? And so that is what you had here. That's absolutely what you had here. But let me say this. Binance has been voluntarily showing proof of reserves for quite a while, actually. In particular, after the FTX collapse in November of last year. But, and this is why I wanted to talk about this is why I want to make this video, but Binance refuses to be audited by one of the big four accounting firms. Is this because there are outsized liabilities on the books? Or something even worse? Earlier this year, CZ was on CNBC, live interview. And I talked about this at the time, whenever it was. And he was very evasive. It was jarring to me. It was very jarring. He was asked why one of the big four accounting firms hasn't audited Binance. And he claimed that the big four accounting firms don't understand crypto, and that's why it hasn't happened. That's it. They just don't understand the magic of that money. The big four accounting firms, of all the geniuses there, and actual geniuses, they just don't get it. They can't audit it. Is that right, though? Well, host Joe, one of the hosts on this live broadcast, Joe Kernan, I believe is his name, he immediately pointed out that Coinbase was audited by one of the big four. And CZ had that deer in the headlights look. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I was like, oh man, this is not good. He just not knowing what to say. He's like, I done got caught. Because he's like, how can I, spin a web to get out of this? Like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And he never did have an answer. He's so evasive. And then another host, I believe her name is Becky Quick, she then asked CZ if Binance has enough money to pay a fine, because there were legal concerns even back then. Like, we all knew something was coming here, right? But he was asked by Becky Quick, do you have enough money to pay a fine of billions of dollars? And he refused to answer that as well, saying that he just said that they're in a strong financial position. The answer should have been, yes, we can afford it. So that, in conjunction with the refute, so they'll show the proof of reserves, but we're not going to show you the full books. We're not going to show you our liabilities. Just take our word. Just trust me, bro. Just trust me, bro. Right? And so Becky Quick ultimately asked him a few times, it might have been 3 times, could you afford such a fine? And the number being bandied about at the time, I think it may have been a little over $2 billion. And he would not answer it. He's just saying these vague things like, we're in a financially strong position. Well, then say yes if the answer is yes. Duh. But the answer wasn't. Now that's telling. And Becky Quick got so frustrated with him. I've never seen her respond like this before. It was the most deep and intense eye roll after the 3rd try or whatever it was. Just rolled her eyes. And then she just gave up because CZ clearly was refusing to cooperate here. So this all in conjunction with, obviously, to some degree at least, a reduction in business. And look, again, just be clear, I'm not saying that I think that they're insolvent. I'm not saying that they're using customer funds. I'm making no such assertions. I have no proof. What I'm noting here, and this is just a fact, we as the public don't know what their actual financial position here is. We know that CZ has been evasive, and we know that he pled guilty to serious crimes, including a felony. We do know that. And we also know that if there is a problem and there's stuff being kept from us, it's going to impact our net worth. It's going to impact when there's going to be runs in crypto, including Bitcoin and XRP, so on and so forth. So it matters to all of us in the world of crypto. That's why I wanted to talk about this. That's why, and these are the things that I think are worth considering here, just in a nutshell. So hopefully, ultimately, it's a big nothing. All I can say is I literally don't know, and neither do you. None of us do. That's the point. That's why I wanted to highlight this. So there's some people ready to just say, hey, green light, let's give this a pass, everything's fine. And I'm like, well, maybe you're right, but why do you have that confidence? Am I supposed to have that confidence? But I don't have the data, you don't have the data. Why do you have the confidence and I don't? You know, are you sure you're not getting ahead of yourself here? It's just weird, right? That's all I'm saying here. So hopefully everything's fine, but these are just some additional things to consider. That's pretty much it. Now, you guys let me know what you think here. And again, just to be clear, just because I'm questioning this stuff, that's just what a rational person should be doing, in my opinion. But, I said that weird. My opinion. But it does not mean that I think that there is something wrong. I'm just saying, isn't it weird that we don't know and that they're not forthcoming? It's been evasive, and this guy pled guilty to a felony charge. Yes, it is. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.